Well, welcome to another Monday Masterclass. This one's a little different. Scott and I are going to take you on a tour. In fact, I'll be the main tour guide, and Scott, you could do maybe color commentary of our software. And we're really going to cover things that are new in 2021. Now, kind of new is in the eyes of the beholder. Some of you have been really active, and there may not be a lot new here, but we think there's a few things that you'll find kind of interesting. In fact, I found something I didn't know existed just a couple of weeks ago. And so some of you might see a lot of new stuff here. So I'm going to go quickly. Our goal will be to cover most of this in 30 minutes and then see what questions you have on other topics. But if you've got any questions on the software as I'm giving this little tour, excuse me, please, let's keep it real informal. Stop us right then and there, and we'll cover it, okay? All right, well, let's start with the Blueprinting Center. I want to give you a quick overview of the dashboard here, and then we're going to go into the Blueprinter software for a while and take a look at the executive dashboard briefly and cover all that. But just to make heads or tails of this certification program, let me just jump over out of the Blueprinting Center into our main AIM public website here. Oh, by the way, Scott's put a new chat. Would you call it a chat box, Scott?
A bot, yeah.
A bot. So if you have questions, this is actually pretty powerful. It can take you over into Blue Help and all kinds of places. But at any rate, let's go up to training, and we'll go to Blueprinting training, and we'll come down here to certification program. I find this is the easiest way to explain what this is all about. So we used to have a blue belt and a black belt, and we now have what we call a certified practitioner level and then a certified blue belt level. Those are the two levels we have. Later, might be a year from now, we'll also have a certified coach, which means you can replace the AIM coaches. But basically, to get the practitioner certification, you just have to be in 3 discovery and 2 preference interviews. Moderator, note taker, observer, doesn't matter. You need to be on a team that finishes the market case. If the market case is recommending kill the project, that's fine, you get credit for it. The e-learning modules 13 through 24 are the real hands-on ones. You got to get through those. And there's 4 relatively simple practitioner certification exams. Once you do that, this thing over here no longer says goals for practitioner. It says now goals for blue belt certification. And basically for that, now you got to be a moderator or a note taker in 5 discovery and 3 preference, finish up all 31 of those e-learning modules. And then there's now 7 blue belt certification exams. And that takes it up a notch or 2 getting those. So let's go back to the Client Center. Again, stop me anytime you got questions, okay? With that background, now let's take a quick tour of this home page here. Pretty obscure up here. You got this little profile, and this is pretty lean right now, but later it'll get beefed out and have more things. Got some information. You can upload your photo here. If you are subscribing to Minesweeper or LaunchStar, those are up here. That's our de-risking program. That's our product launch one. Those subscriptions will show up. Now, here's a cool thing. If you're trained in blueprinting at a previous company, I don't know why we say it may be possible. We will give you credit for everything. Now, we're not going to obviously import your confidential interviews from your last employer, but we will keep track of how many discovery, how many e-learning modules, all that. And your certification will port over, and all of your progress will port over. You'll just have to hit that little contact us. So the point on this thing is you have lifetime access to the Blueprinting Center. After the first year, the only thing you have to pay for is the software, $39 a month. And if you don't want to use it for a while, leave it off. 10 years later, turn it back on, you get to decide. So anyway, that's why we want you to have access to this, regardless of if you're using it at any point in time. If you retire, if you go into independent consulting, just let us know and we'll activate you. Now, a few things over here. So you can go into the software here, but it's pretty easy to go into your recent projects by clicking these. This My Projects does the same thing as clicking this. If you want up a new project, you don't have to go here. You can start it right here. And then on your analytics, this is the same sort of view your executives see if they have the executive dashboard. The color, red is market research, orange is discovery, green is preference, hollow circle is your market case, circles are your completed interviews, diamonds are your scheduled interviews. So it's basically the same deal that shows up in executive dashboard. There over here, you see what you still have to do for your next certification level. Down here, we keep track of, how many discovery and preference interviews and what role you did by the shading, upcoming dates for your projects. Now, you might not be noticing this what's new, but, here, this is the master class we've got today. Here's it looks like a podcast that Scott's going to be, whoops, that one's a lot of date. We'll have to get that one updated. And then the most recent article here as well. And then down below, it shows in green which your completed e-learning modules are. And then certification. So now you can see, this is just a demo that I've got here. But if I was going to go after my certification, I would click Certification Center. And I would pick which of these 7 exams that I want to go up. There we go. Got to log in there. Pick which of these 7 exams I want to go after. And I've got 60 minutes. It's open book. All the rules are in here. Always 25 questions. Everything in here comes from the Blue Help Knowledge Center. Okay. You got 60 minutes, probably enough time to even go back and check a few things you're not sure about and so forth and so on. Right now, I don't know why we did this, but if you fail an exam, you can take it in a week. We're going to change that to 1 day. I don't know why we ever did 1 week. That's in our to-do list. Now, if you look at these 7 exams, here's a little tip. I'm going to go back. I'll get out of here for a second. Here are the 7 exams. These line up really nicely with the Blue Help. So if I go to Blue Help, let me zoom this so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. So exam 1 comes from here. Exam 2 comes from here. Exam 3. Now, exams 4 and 5 come from here because there's so much in discovery. Exam 4, I think, is setting up discovery interviews, and 5 is conducting, and then 6, and then 7. So if you don't want to if you want to study for a particular exam, you'll know which Blue Help section to go to, and then you can dive right in. And, you might not go through all these articles, but see which ones look like you need to brush up a little bit on. And then you can also see who else in your company is certified. A dark blue means they're blue belts. Light blue means they're a practitioner. And if there's no star, that just means you're subscribers. So let me take a breath. I think that was it for the tour on the dashboard. Any questions on that?
No, sir.
You guys good with that? Okay, very good. Well, I will just keep forging on here. So now let's go into the software. So this is pretty simple here. You don't really want to log out ever unless you're using a local public community library or something, their computer. Because if you log out, then it doesn't work well if you need to go and do an interview where you cannot get on the internet. Like, let's say you go and you interview somebody after the pandemic and their customer doesn't let you get on their internet and your hotspot isn't working on your phone. You go, oh, what do I do? You can still do the interview because all this stuff is being stored in your browser cache. Remember, you want to use either Chrome or Edge. Now, we used to support Internet Explorer, but Microsoft killed that. And so as long as you don't log out, you can get in. You can shut your computer down, start up, and it'll remember where you left off. And you'll see a little green sync, which means you're good. Well, actually, what happens is when you get back to the office and then it syncs back to the cloud, it'll show up. Now, a couple things here. You see these little funny markers here? If you want your project to be at the top of the list, use one of those little pins there. If you don't want to see the project anymore, we don't let you delete projects because Anybody in your team might kill the project, then there's a big mess. If you just don't want to see it anymore, hide it from view, and it will not show up here anymore, okay? You can also come up here and either hide or not hide everything. And then this little cloak thing, or I'm sorry, little Venetian mask, if you want to cloak it, you can also do this within the project. And if it's cloaked, it means that when others in your company search on a keyword, they will not find the sticky notes in that project, okay? So most of the time, you're not gonna cloak it. Now, let's go into software and take a quick tour here. So let me come up here to the hamburger menu. My project simply takes you back to where you were before. Not too much exciting happening there. Now, this is kind of interesting. This search interview notes is a little deeper than what, it's obvious. So if you put in a search term here, like coding, this is how it's normally used. It'll search all projects in your company, all dates, all sticky notes, everything here, okay? But you can down select some of these things if you want to. Now, when you hit that, it's going to find any sticky note in your entire company that had the word coding in it. And if you like some of these, you can pick them. You can then import those, bring them over into another interview, or make a brand new interview. It offers the name interview search for codings. You go, yeah, I like that. And then you go in here and lo and behold, there is a new interview called interview search for whatever, coding, and all your notes are here. And I think you might know this, but we probably talked about it before. They come over as gray cloaked notes. The reason being, you don't want somebody to create a note. Edward creates a note, and then next year Nelson creates it. Then next year, Scott or Nelson finds it. Then next year Scott finds it, and all of a sudden, everybody keeps importing it. And you got like the same original note shows up 20 times on your searches. So it only shows up the original time. The cloaking prevents it from showing up in future times. Okay, back to this. But here's the thing that's kind of cool. That's a common way of using this, right? Just put in the search term. But what if you found out there was somebody else in your company had a really good interview? Let's say they interviewed Caterpillar for hydraulic cylinders, but you make filters. And they go, Dan, some really cool sticky notes came up in that interview with Caterpillar about their filters. Really, I wish I could get your sticky notes. In fact, I wish I could get your whole darn interview. Well, you can. So you go here, instead of all projects, you look for the particular project that person was on. I'm kind of mixing metaphors here. And you find that particular interview that they did, we'll call it the Premium Paint Company. And then you say, you know what? I'm going to grab all of those sticky notes in that project, in that particular interview. I'm going to bring them over and I'm going to make it new. And I'm going to call that the Premium Paint Import. And I'll bring that rascal over. And now I've got a brand new interview just brought over from another project. So that's another way you can use that search function. There's lots of capabilities. What if you only wanted to search in your project for things with numerical values? This is really good for creating value calculators later. So get in the habit of not writing out TWO, but rather use a number 2. Use numerical values. And then later, when you're trying to find quantified data, you can use that. So that's the search. Questions on that? You guys okay? Project Home just takes you back to this page right here, okay? Then Save As is kind of powerful. What if you did a whole bunch of step 1 market research and you're really pleased with this whole thing and you're going to go after the e-commerce project with your group, with your team. But later you want to come back and you want to do electronics. Gosh, do I have to recreate this whole chart again? No, you don't. What you can do is come in here and save step 1 or save everything. Or you get to decide what you save. and give it a new name and then save that. Now you've got a new project and you don't have to recreate stuff you've already done. Then we got the project settings. Now, this is where you put in your project name, team leader. You can cloak it if you want. It's up to you. If it's a practice, you probably want to cloak the thing. And this is really important. If your company is using the executive dashboard, and this is a serious project, you want to track it and then fill in the rest of this stuff, okay? These are some drop-down menus that we have, they're defaults. Later, we're going to let your company fill this stuff in. Now, this is also customized for your company. When you tell us you want an executive dashboard, we're going to ask you for an admin, and they're going to go ahead and put in the organization structure of your company. That admin function will get more powerful later. And then we'll save these settings. And then we go over here, and this is where you add team members. Just start typing the first name of the person, and then you can add them in. Now, this is what we wanted to get done. This is kind of goofy because it's a demo here, but then the actual number of this is I didn't get the goal right on the last page here. Let's do it right there. Market case goal. Actually, that's kind of funny, isn't it, Scott? I think this is a little fluke with the. I'm not sure why it's got 39 months under the goal of that. Probably because this is a demo. Any rate, this is where you add this in, and now the timeline adjustments will change how many months it's being estimated to get this job done. There's going to be another category. Scott, do you want to describe the fifth timeline adjustment we're going to be adding pretty soon?
Yes, there's going to be another adjustment. It's going to be percent of virtual interviews. When this was all built, a lot of interviews, or most of them, were in person. Now, for obvious reasons, most of them are web conference, and obviously that greatly can impact how quickly you can get some done. So yeah, so that will be the fifth timeline adjustment.
Yep. So that'll be kind of nice, because we're finding with virtual interviews, you can go so much faster. And then you can add or view attached files, market research reports, and stuff like that. Now, that's all what we have up there. Now, I'm going to maybe go real quickly through this one. This is where, if you need to do some market segmentation with your team, you can do some sticky notes. You can do them at a very high level, and then you can come back and do them at a more focused level. This would be the different possible segments the Acme packaging team might want to go into. And once you get these in here, if you want to, you can capture some market research. So if you're going after the e-commerce market, this is where you can write down what you've learned about market size and where you learned it. You can do some build-up calculations. This is really nice. You can do a value chain. So you've got a permanent record of this whole thing. That's pretty powerful. And then a lot of other stuff you might learn about the market. You certainly don't have to do this. This is an option for you if you want to. Then you're going to pick your columns in that matrix for selecting a project. And you can change anything, select, unselect, whatever you want on these things. Those columns now show up here along with the levels. And you're going to see it like this. And you're going to pick your ABCs and so forth. And then you're going to go ahead and select one of these for your team to go forward on. And then there's a place here, I won't go into this, but a place to put down your scope and definition. Basically, how would you introduce this topic to the different groups you want to interview down the value chain and so forth. These will be remembered, and these will be available to you in your prep sheet topic. So that's it for market research. I was kind of quick. Flag me down if you got questions. Now on the interviewing, 2.1, I don't think there's really anything new here. This is where you can set everything up in the software to define your project. Remember, this is, so if you guys call it APAC, then when you're down in here on these, now it's going to be called APAC. This is basically setting up these. Now, Scott, there is going to be another column here. You want to mention what we got coming on that?
Yes, there's going to be another column for interview scheduler. so we can just be really precise in who's responsible for setting up that interview. You know, one of the common questions we'll get is, well, how long does it take to do a blueprinter project? And my answer is maybe not the most satisfying one, but it is, well, it depends how long it takes you to set up your interviews. And one of the things, you know, just with good project management, if it's sort of fuzzy who's responsible, that can make it take longer. So we are going to add a column here for interview scheduler, just as something helpful for your project management of the team and to make good progress.
Yeah, we think that's going to be a nice upgrade. Also, by the way, you move these along from not targeted to scheduled to finish. But the software, if it senses there's 3 sticky notes filled in, it'll automatically mark it as finished for you. Okay. If we go into the prep sheet, nothing great exciting here. I think all this stuff we've had up here for some time. If you have a second observer, how do we record them and how do they get credit? Well, this is the thing that I just discovered a few weeks ago. I'll show you in a little bit where you can add that observer on the discovery note board. And yes, they will get credit for being an observer on that interview. So I'll show you that in just a jiffy. Here's where you put down the interviewees. Here's what's interesting. If you add in another job title in here, or job function, maybe I should say, it actually, this is kind of cool. It actually puts it over here. I just added that in just now. So you don't have to add it here. You can add new job functions. I should have said function, not title, but you can add them in on the fly here. Your current state questions all come from 2.3. That's where you click this. And any that you have selected for this project show up here. And then same with trigger map. Those are all in 2.3. If you want to go to 2.3, you can click right here and it'll take you there. And here you can add in your questions, anything you want. But we really recommend using the generic questions. Start with our list of 40 questions. Pick the ones that you think look pretty good for your project. You don't have to use these. These become a master list. And then from that master list, you can change these also. That's what's now going to be available in each prep sheet from which you will pick 2 or 3. Same kind of deal here, trigger maps. You hit the plus trigger map, select the one you want, make it, name it, make any modifications you want, and then that's now going to be available for your interviews. Now, the customer tour, we're not going to talk about that too much, but if you've taken a tour of Amazon, this is where you'll record it. First, you do the blue boxes, and you put in here the name of any step, and then you put in a description of it. You can move these around, by the way, reorganize these a little bit, delete. Oops, I don't know what I did there, but hey, it's okay. And then next you go to the top and you put in what people, are doing, maybe operating, maybe they're adding some material, maybe somebody's operating a piece of equipment with this much energy consumption, whoops. And then down below, this is where you work the amuse. Accelerate, minimize, upgrade, simplify, eliminate. And don't forget, that is also showing up here. Accelerate, minimize, so you can divide and conquer. And when you start taking tours, if you focus on just 1 or 2 of those, it's helpful. Okay, a little bit on the conducting the interviews. I'm going to jump over here to the Amazon interview. And now here's that trick I mentioned. What if your Acme packaging team has 2 observers? Just go ahead and click here and add in another observer. We'll get Joe. And now, wait a minute, make it Jeff. Now Jeff is going to get credit for being an observer on this interview. Remember when I talked about certification? You don't really have to remember to record anything. It knows when you take an e-learning module. It knows when you pass a certification exam. It knows if you were a moderator, note taker, or observer, as long as you put it on the prep sheet. And it knows if you finished your market case with the team. So it remembers all those things. You just have to do the work and it remembers it. Now, when we get into the rest of this, don't forget we've got this kind of handy dandy little, hang on a second here. Let me get out, let me go here. Well, that's the craziest thing, Scott. And gosh, my Zoom thing was covering it up. we've got a settings up here. And in the settings, you can change what will move your note along. Its default is hitting the tab key will take you to the next empty note. There's other stuff you can check out here, but the most valuable is language. This is where you can just do this much and you can rewrite these if you want. And if you want to put these in another language, you can do that, hit save, and then it's all going to be done. But I am going to keep this in English because I can read it better. So don't forget those settings up there. Current state, this is pretty straightforward, but you may not have noticed this. Have you ever been in one of these current state areas and this person is now giving me problems? And you're thinking, oh man, I wish I was in the yellow sticky note area here, okay? So what you do is you come here, you copy to the sticky notes, and then when you come up here, now it would be at the top because normally you would do this right at the beginning. These would be at the top here. And what you would do is you'd click on this and you'd grab this guy here and you would, release your finger and move it to the next empty note. And then you'd probably come back here and make that yellow because it's a problem. So if you end up getting some current state, some problems in current state, that's how you do it. And of course, you can always add a new question here as well. The problem's pretty straightforward. Remember, when you're in the normal view, after note number 13, it scrunches down. If you want to keep it 12 per page, do that, or 6 per page, or whatever. Also, you've got this. Most people don't use this, but it can be kind of nice. And you can set whatever size you want here. So if you don't like those sticky notes, or if it's easier reviewing like this, you can also use this view. Just a couple more quick things, and we'll jump out of here. You move down here, all the rest of the notes turn green. Click this, all the rest turn blue. If you selected a trigger map, it now shows up. You can either have the prompt on or have the prompt off. Take the customer through this. And what if they say, ooh, you guys left out a step? Just hit the edit button and then add another step. There's a step that we left out. Where does that guy go? Oh, they say it goes right in here. So you put it in there. If they're happy, hit done editing. And then again, you use this to trigger more blue sticky notes. When you're done, now it's time for top picks. They can pick these. And once you pick those, they are now isolated. Remember, you can also do this kind of cool voting. So if you want, you can have everybody vote silently and record how many people voted for number 3, how many people voted for number 4. And you can do this. And once you get all those votes recorded, you can then come up here, hit the sort, and it will sort first by MHs. You probably don't have any TPs yet. And then it will sort by number of votes. And that gets all the most popular notes to the top, and you can focus on those for your first TPs. When you're done with that, you hit the top picks, and then you're going to go ahead and whatever was in here will be showing up here. So what we're going to do, let's take an example. Let's take one we didn't do here. Let's go here. We'll make a new one right here, number 11. Okay. So now if I go to top picks on number 11, whatever was showing up here, it automatically shows here. We're going to go ahead and then we're going to put in an outcome statement here, minimize shipping charge increases or something like that. And that will always automatically capitalize. Then you're done. This is where you export to PDF, but you can also export to Excel, Microsoft Word, and other stuff. All right, that was kind of fast. Let me just see if I can wrap this up with preference interviews. Preference interviews, I'm not going to take you through this process in 3.1 and 3.2. However, if you're interested in Blue Help, go to the preference section, and it has right at the very beginning a really nice article or two on how to use 3.1 and 3.2, how to get these little sticky notes stacked on top of each other and get rid of duplicates and vote and all that kind of stuff. Let's imagine you've done that. And you often want to do this with a coach the first time. It's not that hard, but it helps. Your settings carry over from discovery, and your interview candidates carry over. Now, at first, they're all going to come in here. We're going to reset everything to not targeted. But then you're going to go through and decide, are you targeting this one? Have you scheduled it? And is it finished? And you're going to have the same prep sheet, except no current state questions, no trigger map. So it gets a little easier. And then your actual interviews will be done in 3.4. And here, once again, you can introduce your team, add observers, and introduce their team. And now you're going to go through this. A couple quick things here. It really helps to read the whole statement. How important is it to minimize the likelihood of box damage from moisture? Of course, it's going to start over here. And then you can either drag it or you can simply type in the number, hit the next button, and do the same thing. And this is a great place to capture comments. Okay, very, very helpful here. So you go through all these, getting all these captured. Notice how it's moving down below. If you need to go back, just click here. You can bounce around by clicking down below wherever you want. It'll always show the Saturn ring around this. And then when you get to the end of this rascal and you hit the done button, it's going to tell you, it's going to show the customer where everything is. It's a really good idea to see if they want to move anything around once they see where everything is relative to each other. Okay. And then if they want to add a new outcome, you can always add a new outcome, an outcome name, save that, and so forth. Okay. Now, this is the second most important thing, getting how they would measure it and using that measurement, what test methods. If they don't have an actual test, ask for a scenario. What would it look like if it was very acceptable? Can you describe a situation where you're totally satisfied? I don't have time to go into it, but there's more here where you capture must-haves. Here's what we heard from others. Would you agree? Yes or no? If it could totally satisfy you in any three, this is what's going to be feeding a heat map later. And then you see if there's anything else. Now, make sure you export this to PDF. This is one of the favorite things that your customers will get from you. They just love seeing the fruit of all this effort. So this is a really nice report that you can send to them. Now, let me wrap up this by going to the analysis. This is where it gets fun. You can set up new market views. So you could say, listen, I want to get just my European ones, and I'm going to weight box factory at 50% because they're so big. You get to create these different market subsegments, okay? And so you could call this the Europe weighted market view, okay? So you do that, and then you come back here, and you've just created a new market view. Think of it as a market subsegment. And that's really good because when you get in here, if you see massive standard deviations, you may want to see if taking slices of these market views will help you get tighter standard deviations. When you do, that's when you can start looking at the bubble charts, market satisfaction gaps, and the heat maps. Now, here's something you may not have noticed. There's an export to PowerPoint up here. So what you can do is you get to select what you want. I mean, you might pick a bunch of these, and let's say you were just interested in the bubble chart, for instance, okay? You could export this thing. And what I like to do is in PowerPoint, turn on the slideshow mode and almost kind of create like a little movie. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to enable that. So you could say, here's all interviews, and here's what North American, European folks wanted, and here's what, oh, it's showing, you know what, it actually sends two versions. There's a 5 to 10 and a 1 to 10. So to make it look a little more impressive, I might just delete these and just show the, you know, all using the same grid. So it might be something like this. There's all my interviews. There's North America, Europe. Oh, look at Asia over here. Now look at the shippers. Look at the e-retailers. It can make a pretty impressive little show here if you want to razzle dazzle them a little bit. Now, that's it for the analysis here. There's a little bit more. Let me mention one thing that's easily overlooked. If I'm seeing some big standard deviations and I want to know why, what I like to do is go into the edit view, and I'm on the descriptors view now. let's go to the data view. And then I will cast my eye down here and see which of the outliers are. So if I see something that just doesn't fit with the rest of these, everybody else is up at, 8s and this guy's at a 4 or something. It'll give me some clues on why things are different. And I'll do some what if market views then. Okay, last thing is a market case. And here, your team is going to march through these 6 steps. It'll give you some instructions on what to put in the narrative here. And you'll go through, click through these, make any changes here you want. And now when you get to the end here, slow down just a little bit because you need to pick which market view you want. If things are so different and you need to work just for a North American and European market because the other markets are so different, then that's the market satisfaction gap you want to show in your market case. If you're going to try to satisfy the whole global everybody, then that's fine. But think about that a little bit before you just click through it. And then when you hit this "Are you sure" button and finalize it, that means that everybody who was on your team up here now gets credit for having completed a market case. And now you can download a PDF of this thing. And this is great prior to a stage gate review. So you can send that ahead of time. And then you can also download a PowerPoint, and this will have the slides in it that you can use during your review. We're going to make a few changes in the sequence of these charts. Did it come up? There it is. Yeah, most of them are okay. We're going to make a couple small changes, but it's pretty much what you see here going through these things. All right. And then now, what if you want to do the remaining 4 blueprinting steps? Well, that's where you would download a fully populated Excel spreadsheet. It's what we use for many, many years. It'll automatically take what you've done so far, capture it in Excel, and then continue on and let us know. We'll work with you on that. Okay, so that was kind of fast. Let me take a breath and see if there's any questions at all that anybody has on any of this.
After you finalize the business case, can you then go back and change it?
Yeah, the business case versus the market case, you mean, or
Yes.
either? Yeah, both of them can be changed. Once you do either one, you can go back. Great question. So if I go to this demo again, and this is the same for the business cases as market case. Once I finalize this, now if later on I want to come in here and I want to do something with it, I will need to unlock it to edit it and then change it and then finalize again. And you'll do something like that in Excel as well. Yep, good. Other questions?
I've conducted a bunch of preference interviews, but under the My Blueprinter page, none of them are showing up. Is there something I should be looking for to figure out? I mean, all of my discovery interviews are showing up fine, but not my preference.
Your preference interviews are not showing up. So you might want to check, and Scott, you may have some ideas on this too. You might want to check to make sure in the prep sheet that you're named in here. Is that?
Yep, it is. Absolutely. That was the first thing I checked. Yeah.
So you got it named in here. Okay, now this may be a funky thing here. And if this is the case, we probably need to make a change here. Check to see if in your project settings, let's go ahead and do this. Hang on a second, right here, track. I guess this doesn't matter. I don't have to have that tracked. Yeah, the current status. That's interesting, Scott. Look at this. It's only when I'm tracking that the current status shows up. So what I'm wondering might be happening, it might still be marking as back in discovery. Check to see if it's marking in preference, okay?
Got it. Okay, let me check. It's under project settings?
Yeah, under project settings. And check to see if it's in preference or not.
Okay, I'm looking. I'm not even seeing a place for that. Where was that?
Yeah, click the tracked visible to executives, because this may be a little flaw in our logic here, Scott. Click that tracked visible to executives just for a little bit.
Okay, there it is. Okay.
Does it show in preference or not?
Yeah, it does say in preference.
Okay, good. Then it was supposed to recognize it when it moved, so that wasn't the issue. Scott, can you think of any other reason why And you're saying on your dashboard, it's not showing up here as giving you credit, correct?
Exactly, yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, unless Scott, you can think of a quick answer for this, if you don't mind sending us a screenshot of that and the project name, we'll dig into that. There may be a bug in this thing that we haven't
Sure.
noticed, okay?
Absolutely. I'll send, who should I send it to? Should I send it to Scott?
Yeah, send it to Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Because there could be some little bugs. We try to proof it pretty carefully, but we may have missed something. So that would be fantastic if you wouldn't mind doing that, Nelson.
Okay, not a problem.
Great. Other observations or things that weren't working quite right. Tell you what, give me 5 more minutes while you guys are thinking, and let me just show you one last thing here, okay? You can set up your company to have an admin, and that admin can go in and they can put in the name of your company, and they can put in, maybe this is a group or division, business, whatever these levels, whatever you guys call your organization structure. Then they can say, well, we've got a coatings division with these businesses in it. And then we can say we've got, an adhesive division with these businesses. You can actually go down like 4 levels if you want, okay? Now, once they save that, I'm not going to bother saving it here. Once they save that, oh, okay, undo all my changes. Okay, I guess I will save it. Let me make sure I spell it right then. Once they save that, then now the executives in your company will have this executive dashboard, okay? And I'm going to put on demo data here so you can see what it looks like. And this is where they can look at a project portfolio of a pipeline view of all of the projects in blueprinting that are being tracked. They have to be tracked. And basically everything I showed you earlier. Lots of timeline sorts and filters and sorting and regional things. They can also see a portfolio view, seeing how these bubbles are getting closer to the market case goal. They can see how employees are moving toward practitioner certification. There's the 12 e-learning modules, the 5 interviews and so forth, the 1 market case, and then also how they're proceeding toward blue belt certification. And they can also see, how many interviews. And we need to get you a lot of green, Nelson. We got to get that fixed. So anyway, that is also available. There's no charge for the executive dashboard. Just let us know if you want that, and we'll get you all set up on that. All right. Well, Scott, I think I've exhausted what I can think of. Anybody else have any questions on any of the software, or Scott, anything that you can think of we didn't talk about?
Not that I can think of.
We have a lot of little things we're going to be cleaning up here, that little small irritations that you probably don't bother you too much, but they bother us or it bothers somebody. We'll be working on those. Then we have some larger upgrades coming. We hate to promise you what they are because we never know how long they're going to be, but we definitely are a long ways from being done, right, Scott?
For sure. Yep.
Yeah, great.
All
Dan,
right. Dan,
yes.
I just put a question in the chat for you.
Yes, Graham. Go ahead. Maybe Scott, you can see that if you got it handy there.
No, Scott probably can't see it. So you've got this new this new way of having the goals for a blue belt certification and a practitioner.
Yes.
But obviously through the Parker program, well, I don't know whether you remember, but I did the blue belt certification, but now it's not saying that in my blueprinting center.
I certainly remember. You were in the front row. I remember right where you were, Graham, with you and your colleagues there. Exactly. Yeah, so you still are a blue belt according to the old standards. Now, what we did, if you recall, we never had any certification exams. We just, you guys slogged through several days of workshop and did some really good work and have got, frankly, most of the skills in hand. But what we decided was, so you are still a blue belt. Don't let anybody take that away from you. But now we call it a certified blue belt and a certified practitioner. So, if you're up for it, because we didn't have any way of tracking all these things and really showing, what people had accomplished. So I think if you're up for it, you probably will find you've already done enough interviews market case, probably all you need to do is take these certification exams and you're there, okay? So you'll probably find it useful. The exams are really good. It kind of refreshes you on a lot of things. There are some new things, but not a lot. And then you'll have a certified blue belt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, you bet, you bet. And then the other thing I should say is, right now, you probably all know the way our new program works, and that is when people sign up for training, we now, in our training plan, really strongly encourage new people to get a coach on the team, which does cost $4,200, and the AIM coach is there for the team as they go through it for the first time. This has been the single biggest upgrade in skills we've ever had. I wish we would have done it, a dozen years ago. An AIM coach sitting with dedicated on a team as they're learning it for the first time. Tremendous skills mastery. But we don't really like to do it. I got to tell you, it's a lot of work. And what we want to do is get companies like Parker. We aren't set up to do this yet, Graham. What we want to do is have people like you get your practitioner certification, your blue belt certification, and then when you're ready, shadow an AIM coach. And there is this huge reservoir of coach resources, including an 8,000 word coaching document that just shows up just the part you need when you need it. So eventually we're going to get to the point where if you wanted to, Graham, you and your colleagues could not only be practitioner certified, blue belt certified, but a certified coach. And then you would not have to use AIM for this coaching. That's something you could do internally at Parker. Or if you retire and you want to become, a coach coaching anybody, that's great. You've got the certification. All right, thanks. Good, really good question.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet. Other questions anybody has? Well, we'll let you go grab your snow shovels and get to work out there. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. But thank you all for joining us as we kind of went too long and too fast, but thanks for your patience. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Thanks.
You too. Be safe. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.